Okay, so I'm back at the Miami Zoo. Today I'm shooting with the Fuji XT4, and attached to the Fuji XT4 I have the 200mm 2.0 lens. I have the 1.4 teleconverter that comes with this lens attached, so I'm getting 420mm, I believe, at 2.8. I like to use the Peak Design camera strap system. To the Fuji XF 200mm 2.0 lens, I have the Peak Design slide camera strap attached directly to the lens on the actual mount. Another thing I like about the Peak Design camera straps is how convenient it is to attach and detach from your camera or from your lens. I also brought the Fuji XT3 with the Fuji XF 100 to 400mm 5.6 lens. On an APS-C crop body, on the long end, this will be the equivalent of 600mm. For this photo of the tiger, I was using the Face and Eye Detect autofocus, and I was placing the square on the face of the tiger, and I thought that the camera performed well. I really like the look of the paw coming forward. Gives you a sense of motion, and the bonus was the tongue sticking out and with the tiger looking intensely out in front of him. And again, the settings for the autofocus was I was selecting the square and putting it on the face, and I did have continuous autofocus with the motor drive turned on to high speed. And this photo is kind of interesting. I don't know what it is that you're seeing in the photos, but if you see the small white specks, I don't know if those are insects, maybe some saliva from the tiger because he's got his mouth open with his tongue out. I like the expression looking right at the lens with a little bit of the tongue sticking out. It's always nice when the tiger goes into the water. I waited to see if the tiger would actually turn and face the camera. Never happened, but I think this photo is pretty nice. I like the colors of the water and the green grass behind them. So this photo of the lily is really interesting. I kind of spotted something in it that I didn't see when I was actually taking the photo, and what I spotted is the dragonfly. I got really lucky with this. Didn't even know it was in the picture. So just to give you an idea, with the Fuji XF 100 to 400mm lens on the Fuji XT3, extended all the way out, actually an equivalent of 600mm. The Gibbons have been giving me some really good photo opportunities. I got a really nice break because they had just put in some food out there for them. A touch of orange and the two hands folded around it, and just really making sure he doesn't drop that, and he's enjoying it. Again, shot with the Fuji XT3 and the Fuji XF 400mm lens, equivalent of 600mm. Sloth bear, I was shooting with the Fuji XT4 with the XF 200mm 2.0 lens. I have the 1.4 extender attached, so I have an equivalent of 420mm. This photo was taken with the Fuji XT4 and the XF 200mm lens with the 1.4 converter attached. I set the white balance to shade because the day was got a little bit cloudy, and I wanted to make sure that I keep the pictures looking warmer. Film simulation, I used Velvia. And interesting thing between this photo and the next photo, which was actually shot with Fuji XT3 and the XF 100 to 400mm lens at 5.6, you can see the difference in depth of field. You can see a little bit more detail in the background of the lion. The settings for this photo was actually at 5.6 and 372mm compared to the 420mm on the photo with the XF 200mm lens. All right. This name is for real. It's called the Somali wild ass. Looks a lot like a donkey. I typically don't photograph this animal, but it was up and moving around, and I thought it was presenting some good opportunities to test the autofocus. I particularly like the fact that the camera maintained the autofocus on a couple of the photos where you see the animal kind of looking through tree leaves, and I thought that was very encouraging that the camera was able to maintain the autofocus on the eye of the animal. So another animal that I enjoy photographing at the zoo is the dole. This animal looks very much like a fox or a dog, and you would think because of those characteristics that it's up and moving around often, but it actually is not, and you have to have a lot of patience, stick around for quite a while, and hope that you can get some opportunities to photograph them. Their exhibit is also another one, overexposed backgrounds when you're photographing them, as they tend to be in a shaded area. So the next photographs that I'm going to show you is a series of 5 photos where the dole was shaking his head, basically I guess trying to dry off, and I'm really happy with this performance with the Fuji because of the fact that it was moving very quick that the autofocus maintained on the face of the dole. Managed to get a couple of photos of the dole in the water. African painted dog. Was taken with the Fuji XT4 and the Fuji XF200mm lens with the 1.4 extender attached. All these photos are taken at 420mm at 2.8. I kept the ISO quite high for these photographs as I was trying to keep a fast enough shutter speed to stop their movement. They were pacing back and forth and moving all around the exhibit, and a big part of the challenge here is that they would be mostly in shade and it would be very bright behind them. I think the camera performed pretty good considering it's a very difficult situation because of the lighting and also the high ISO. The African painted dog has quickly become one of my favorite spots to photograph because of the fact that they are always on the move, and I believe if you get there somewhere around the 11 o'clock in the morning time, they feed them. Can really make for some great photos. I wanted to take the opportunity to zoom in and see just how sharp the image quality can be with the Fuji XT3 using the XF100 to 400mm lens. I'm zoomed out all the way, so I'm at 600mm, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you two samples of this photo. First one is going to be without any cropping, so you can see on top of the fact that I zoomed in all the way to 600mm with the XF100 to 400mm lens at an ISO of 1600. I want you to see just how sharp this camera and lens combination is. The finished photo. I used Topaz denoise. I think it really looks impressive and very happy with the sharpness of this image, especially when I cropped in as much as I did. This photo of the Rudy duck is really impressive as far as the final result and the autofocus performance of the camera. I noticed that the duck kind of comes up out of the water and starts flapping his wings, and I shot continuous autofocus. I'm going to show you a sample here of the original and then the edited photo where I removed the other duck that was in the background. Pretty happy with the results from this photograph, and these were taken with the Fuji XT4 and the XF200mm lens with the 1.4 teleconverter attached. Alright, so this will conclude this video of my recent trip to the zoo using the Fuji XT4 with the XF200mm 2.0 lens with the 1.4 extender attached, and also using the Fuji XT3 with the XF100 to 400mm lens. I'm pretty happy with this trip out to the zoo today, and hopefully you'll find something in this video. I would appreciate any positive feedback and constructive critique this outing to the zoo. And also, if you have any questions regarding the Fuji XF 200mm lens, I'm sure a lot of you out there are very curious about this lens. Hopefully I can provide some answers to any questions you may have. I hope to post a video in the future. I have used the Fuji XF 200mm lens and the Fuji XF 100 to 400mm lens quite a bit for sports photography. I've done some tennis and football with this lens and a lot more nature photography. I hope to work on putting together some future videos. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and thank you.